Hey, and welcome to Dude, Where's My Ramp, the podcast where disabled life takes the mic. We're so glad you're here. This is a space where we get real about disability rights, access, identity, and sometimes the hilarious, sometimes infuriating world we deal with every day. Whether you're disabled, chronically ill, neurodivergent, or just want to learn a bit more, we're here for conversations that don't always make it to the mainstream. We're your hosts, two disabled pals and full-time advocates. We're on a mission to dismantle ableism, capitalism, and dodgy building regulations everywhere. And you'll always find us asking, dude, where's my ramp? Before we get into today's episode, we want to do something which is really important: audio descriptions. Not everyone experiences the world the same way, and we want to make sure our show is as accessible as possible, including those who are blind or visually impaired. I'm your host, Chandy. I'm a white cis male. My pronouns are he, him. I'm wearing a black polo. I have a beard that's slightly ginger and short brown hair on the side, which a little bit longer on top. On the wall behind me are some photo frames with various images in. Emma?
Hi, I'm Emma, and I'm a woman in my early 30s. I'm I'm white, and I'm wearing a black long sleeve t-shirt, and I have glasses and long brown hair, and I'm seated in my bedroom/office, but my background is blurred, so you can't really see anything.
Description's done. Let's get into our ramp check. This is where we check in with each other and see how we're doing. Understand what our bodies and brains are saying this week. This is just to take a breath before getting into the big stuff. No pressure, just a space to be honest, messy, or whatever we need. So I guess, Emma, how's your week been?
Pretty good. Just trying to get apartment stuff. I need 2 new people to move into this apartment, and I'm trying to find I'm trying to find 2 new roommates to do their lease renewal with me. And it's annoying and stressful, and my landlord is like on my ass about it, and he needs to calm down.
And how are you otherwise? What's going on have you finished university now?
I graduated hopefully in December, but I'm on summer break. So yeah, right now I'm just chilling. Yeah, I've got lots of drama in my personal life, but I'm moving through it. Actually, I'm pretty impressed with how well I'm moving through it. Even when I'm not doing well, I'm still okay, which is, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. I have not had a breakdown yet. So.
Always a bonus. But I think it's really important, like, just when you say, like, talk about like personal drama, like, I feel like every therapy session I'm going into now, I'm just talking about personal drama, like going on behind the scenes, like things that you might not see when you just talk to me day to day. And I think I've cried so many times in therapy over the last month.
I cry like every
day.
I cry like every day. I don't give a shit. I love crying.
It is good to cry. It doesn't make you feel like a little bit like, I don't know, makes you feel like you're taking a weight off your shoulder quite a lot.
Yeah, it's a release. I think it's healthy. I think it's good, and I think it's necessary. And I think people need to cry more. That sounds bad, but crying is a good thing.
Even if it's happy crying. I think
Yeah.
I happy cry more than I sad cry. But that's not to say I don't think there's power in sad crying.
I do both. I just cry ever since I turned 30. I'm 32, and since I entered my 30s, I just cry a lot. I don't know why. I just do.
So what you're saying is that now that I'm 30, it's downhill from here, and I'm just gonna start crying.
I don't know, but that's what happened with me. I don't know what happened. It's just like, I don't know if it's like, I don't know. I just got really emotional.
I was thinking about it when I was in therapy a few weeks ago. Like when I started crying out, like my therapist just like didn't say anything, and I think, like, as we'll come on to in a bit with like the mental health topic that we're talking about today, like that that my body went into like a fight or flight situation. Like, should I cry in front of her? And the fact that she just gave me that space to do that, I think is so powerful and so like genuinely human and genuine connection with someone.
Yeah. So you felt like, so when she just sat there, that was, because for me, I would have been like, I would have maybe second guessed myself and like, oh, what are we doing here? Is this okay? Like, but you felt safe?
Yeah,
That made you feel.
I think the first time it happened, I like almost tried to stop myself and I was like, I'm okay, let's carry on. And then the second time it happened, I was like, actually, no, I need to just cry because I think it is good. And I think not that I didn't like crying growing up, but like with a father who didn't really cry much or didn't was very like not overtly masculine, but he you could tell that he didn't think and feel like I do now. And I think that's probably why I'm the way I am now, is that because I want to allow my emotions to express themselves.
Yeah. And there's also, it's different for males too. There's a different, society has different beliefs about men and crying. So it's often, um, not as acceptable, you know, which is like, we need men to cry. Like, it's so necessary. It's, please, if you're a man and you're listening, cry, please cry, do it, do it.
And I think I heard someone saying that we're in a place now where we need to stop telling men that it's okay to talk, because men know it's okay to talk, but they just don't want to talk. And I think in part that's true. Like, we have got a lot of awareness now, but we still have a long way to go. Like, just looking on social media at this toxic masculinity and stuff, and how men seem to think that it's weak to cry, or it's like it's that beta alpha thing, whatever you call it. Like, you're either masculine and you need to be masculine and stuff, but at the same time, like, just being vulnerable is also very empowering, but also a sign of strength.
Yeah, it is. I think as a, I feel like as a, just because I'm a female and it was just more welcomed for me to cry, whether that be in private or in public, honestly. It like, um, I think, so I never, but it is vulnerable. I think where I feel uncomfortable crying is, it's around, well, I have no problem showing my emotions or being like, but it's really, that is the most vulnerable. And I think, um, not everybody knows how to comfort you. So it's sort of like, it's not that I'm afraid to cry, but it's not wanting to deal with like, somebody not knowing how to be with me in those moments. Cause then that feels like not a rejection, but it just doesn't feel good to
Mm.
like be in that space and have somebody not be able to like, um, respond in a way that makes you feel comfortable.
And I think it's also quite like a neurodivergent thing, is like not knowing how to express yourself. Like, I've had times, especially since like COVID, and when there was that whole, like, the way our communication style changed. So I spent a lot of time, more than I do now, like in my room on my own, not talking to anyone. And so when I did then try to express myself, I think you I found it harder to talk about it, and found it harder to mask and to give those, not that I didn't want to tell people, but like getting the words out. It
Oh,
felt
I
like there
get,
was a mental block there.
yeah, it's like literally like, it's it's like a freaking, I don't know, like it is like a full stop. I know what you're talking about. I don't even know how to like describe it. It just, and it's so frustrating. And you're like I know words. I know how to
Mm.
express myself. I don't know. In those moments, I'm like, I don't know what's going
I think it's almost like, because I have a lot of thoughts going around in my head, and anyway, like I've got like a internal monologue, like almost telling me like each step of what I'm doing and stuff. But
Yeah.
I've also got these intrusive thoughts of like, if this happens, is this because of my actions, and have I done something wrong, and all these different scenarios playing out in my head. And so then on top of that, you've got like emotions and feelings and the other stuff. And so it kind of all becomes a bit jumbled. And so there's so much. It's like, where do I even start? Like, if I start here, is this going to come out? What's like, what am I trying to tell someone? Like, how's it all going to unfold?
Yeah. And there's a lot of pressure, especially when you're trying to communicate something that is really personal or vulnerable, or because if you don't get it out and if it's not received correctly by the other person or group of people, then you're directly impacted in a negative way. And so I don't know, I've been in like situations where um I like I need to explain an experience or a need, or talk to somebody about something that, like maybe like I'm trying to explain ableism to somebody, and I know if I don't get it right, like I have to suffer a consequence, because then like and so there's a lot of pressure to get it right. And um yeah, it can be hard, and I feel frustrated with myself. So I'm like, I know what I'm talking about. What, like, I know this stuff, but for some reason I'm not. It's very weird.
I feel like we started this by saying is that no, this is something like casual to get into the deep stuff, and we've gone straight in with the deep stuff, like getting we've absolutely we just gone straight into it. But it's good because I think like it's good sometimes to just say how we feel and
Yeah,
don't hide the shit.
yeah, I agree.
But
Um, but I think what we intended to talk about was um the this saying to a disabled person, "You're so strong," and how that hides the real experience of disabled people, or it's dismissive of that.
and
Um,
I'm not. I think it when I looked at when we were looking, you came up with a list of ideas of what to talk about today. I think I saw this one and I was like, I've had people tell me that, and at times it has been helpful, like as a reminder, like I can do this, and like I am a strong individual. But at the same time, I think there is a lot of subtext to it, and a lot of things that might not be interpreted by someone who says it because they're just coming from a place of trying to be helpful, but sometimes it can have the opposite effect.
yeah. I think what I hear, because I've gotten that a lot in my life. And I think when I hear something like that, I feel like it it centers the other person's emotional comfort, and like not my lived truth or experience. Like saying, I feel like saying "you're so strong" is code for like, I'm uncomfortable with your lived experience, so I need to frame it in a way I can handle. Um, it feels like that to me, or it sort of, I think it also shifts away from systemic injustice,
Mm.
like that, it hides the reality that most the suffering that disabled people experience is not, um, so it's hiding that it's not from their bodies, but from ableism, accessibility, and like neglect. And it implies that a disabled person's struggles are personal burdens to endure rather than collective failures
Mm.
to address.
And I think phrases like strength or like inspirational, or even like I don't know how you do it, can create like this expectation for disabled people to always appear as resilient or positive and capable. But in actual fact, like I said earlier, like there are days when I do feel like absolute rubbish, and getting out of bed is a struggle, and like just doing anything. And so I spend most of the days just sat there. And that isn't a sign of strength, or in what we would see as strength in the media. Because like particularly now, like the way like male strength is seen as being physically fit, going for a run every day, working out, doing all that. And so I don't necessarily fit that description. And it's not to say that I've not got like, you could look at mental strength and things like that, and there's different layers to it, but it does hide and take away from the other side of things and puts an expectation on us to always be that certain image of what people create.
Well, yeah, and it discourages expressions of like pain and anger and exhaustion. Um, you know, I and because you are pressured um to display like a yeah, that strength, that strong
Mm.
inspiration, the fighter you know, role, which is sometimes it feels like that's the only socially acceptable role for disabled people, and it's just it's a lot.
And I think linking this to kind of the mental health topic and discussion, like it puts pressure on us to maintain the strong facade, which can lead to like isolation, suppression of emotions, like you said, and also worsening of mental health problems like anxiety and depression. And I think I felt that most like growing up, because I think when people would call me inspirational and stuff, I was like, if I'm not inspirational, it's because I'm talking about how I feel. I'm showing weakness, and so you don't talk about things and you hide away and you don't, or you mask and you pretend to be how you think people want you to be and stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think um you know, if disabled people are always like strong, suffering becomes the expectation, and it reinforces the idea that it's okay, or even like an admirable for disabled people to like endure pain and inaccessibility and mistreatment, and isolation.
Mm.
And I think it desensitizes non-disabled people to neglect the urgency for like change.
And I think it leads into an idea of that Stella Young once talked about, and it's like the idea of inspiration porn and the objectification of disabled people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know, at the end of the day, too, like when people say that to me, I want to be like, okay, if you were in my body, you'd figure it out too. I mean, like,
Mm.
you, I don't know. We as humans, when you're given whatever life throws at you, most of the time, people adapt and figure it out. I mean, I don't know. Like, I've never had to. I've never been like I've never given birth and had a baby. Like, and honestly, from seeing videos in my ninth grade biology class, like, yeah, I think the same thing. Like, oh my God, you're so strong. How do you do it? Like, I'm thinking those same thoughts. But like, if I got pregnant, like women have been doing it for as long as women have been around. Like, they have figured out and done it many, many times. Like, it's, you know, it's that's what humans do. We're adaptable. I don't know. It's kind of like I don't know. It's just so it's sort of strange to say that anyway. It's like, do you really think you wouldn't figure it out if you were in my shoes? Like you would.
But I think when we like talk about strength, but you're so strong, or like you're inspirational, like it reduces our like disabled people's lives to a spectacle of like overcoming adversity. And like I used to see like images a lot like growing up of like you can do this with like a person in a wheelchair on like top of a mountain or something. And I think obviously when you're younger, like for me, I was living in that reality of other people,
Mm.
and so I didn't necessarily see that as a problem. But I think as I've got older, I can see how that could be misinterpreted or like Sorry, I thought I was gonna sneeze. But I think like you see how that could like belittle or diminish that person's life into, oh, but if they can, if they're able to do it and they're disabled, then I can do it and I'm non-disabled. When it, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. And I think, like, also at the end of the day, it's like you don't, if you're not disabled, it's like it's not I know that you don't understand this life or this experience, like, because you're not in it. Like, I get it. I don't understand what it's like to be a man because I'm not. Never have been and never will be. But I guess it's just like almost like recognize that, like, you don't know, and maybe instead of trying to find the right thing to say, recognize that you may not know it because you're not, I don't know, and ask more questions like, how does this feel for you? Or even just being honest, being like, I'm not really sure what to say, but I want to support you.
Mm.
Like, I don't know, if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, oh, cool, okay. And I'd let them know. I'd feel a lot like I've never been insulted when somebody doesn't know what to do or how to or what to say. Because I will like I'll walk you through it, you know? I'd rather you just like lean into that and own it than like come up to me and say something ignorant.
And I think it kind of dehumanizes disabled people and shifts the focus. No, hang on. What am I trying to say? Um, Mine's gone blank. Um, like the "you're so strong" comment, while it often might be well intentioned, I think it minimizes and invalidates the genuine suffering, like we've talked about, but also like, oh no, hang on, my notes have gone all over.
All good.
Yeah. I think the "you're so strong" narrative also is often a product of society's uncomfort with disability and vulnerability, like we talked about at the start, like in terms of men crying and stuff. I think like the idea of needing support is frowned upon, and it's almost like, I think we're seeing that now a lot more, like especially here in the UK, like there's a shift away from community focus to individual responsibility, and it's like it's your individual burden to carry, and so the also strong comment kind of reinforces that.
Yeah, I mean, it, and what if that's not how you would just like simply like what if that's just not how you would describe yourself? So when it's like came if somebody came up to you and said like you're so like bubbly and you're kind of, and maybe that is like totally not how you see yourself and you're like, What?" But when somebody kind of puts that on you, you're forced to sort of take it on. I don't know. It's sort of
Mm.
forcing a it's sort of stripping somebody of their ability to of their right to be the writer of their own experience, you know. You're so strong. Well, you know, that's maybe that aligns with your own narrative, but what if it doesn't and that person didn't give you the chance to, you know, to come up with that yourself? I think it's important that everybody has be given their, you know, what I feel is a right to um be the author of your own story and
Mm.
your experience. And I feel like when you say statements like you're so strong, it's in a way sort of robs the person of being able to do that themselves.
And I think the true strength behind in disability is not about never showing pain or never showing weakness. It's about resilience. As much as I think that word is so divisive and so like it can have a lot of meaning. Advocating for oneself, seeking help, acknowledging our limitations, which I think is really important because I think like I was so rubbish at that growing up. Like I always tried to take on too much and push myself further and further because I think I'd want to live up to those expectations that other people had of me. Um, and I think it also helps us set boundaries, which is also really important for kind of mental health and looking after ourselves.
Yeah, and I think it just, we all need to have the, permission to, we all need to be allowed to be authentic. And the human experience is not either or, it's lots of things together at once at different times. And I don't know, I just feel like it's, you got to leave room for whatever that whatever's going on for that person at that point. I don't
Mm.
know. And I feel like there are some days when I do feel super strong. There are some days where my attitude is like, you could never do what I do. Like I've I've felt that way many, many times. But there are also days where people would say something like, you're strong, and I'm like, I fucking brushed my teeth, calm the fuck down. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but um yeah, I think, but again, it's up to the individual person to decide for themselves what they are and what their experience means and how to describe their experience and their identity, and I just don't think it's really anybody's right to sort of to sort of make a statement like that. I feel like there should be more curiosity and questions. And I think this really just comes from a discomfort with disability. And, on the surface, saying somebody's strong or an inspiration or whatever it is, it sounds like a compliment, but it it's well, it doesn't mean a lot now because it's used so much. So it's like, it's, the most basic thing you could say to me. Like, it just, I don't know. When I hear that now, I'm like, you haven't really engaged with my like story at all, have you? Like, I don't know.
I think the problem as well is that a society, both I guess here and in America, obviously I know less about America, but I think we're so good at putting people into boxes, into categories of like you're this gender, you're that gender, you're this sexuality, you're not this sexual. Like we have like tick boxes for a lot of things, and I think
You, Germany. That was not a appropriate joke. They like
and
to
I
solve
think
things. I took it. Stop, Emma. Stop. Oh my God.
and I think like society often wants to neatly put us into these boxes as either like tragic victims or heroic overcomers, like the strong or the weak. And I think like there's often even within our community, like I've spoken to disabled people, and then other people have told me like, oh, they don't think you're disabled enough and things like that. And like as well as feeding into like other topics that we've talked about, like this narrative also like it makes people feel like if they're not disabled enough, like they're not strong enough, or they're not, or they're weak, or they're like inferior and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I think like we see it especially with the UK right now, like they're changing the benefit system so that only certain types of disabilities qualify, or like you need to be severely disabled. But it's like, well, I am severely disabled because my life is a lot different to what. And I was having a conversation with my MP about this over email, and I was like, you're making an assumption based on your experience of disability within your family and how work helps that situation. Whereas for me, I can work, I do work, but at the same time, like I still struggle every single day, like with pain, with fatigue, with everything in between. And so I think like that deserving, undeserving, victim, overcomer, like narrative really feeds into that.
Yeah. Well, it's a way to sort of, I mean, it really, like, it's so fascist. Honestly, it's so fascist. It goes back down to like being categorized as, who, I mean, no disabled are as a whole, it's a group of, this is a group that is the undesirables, that the world collectively, like, not everybody in the world, but overall wants to get rid of. And so the sorting of like, okay, well, we can't pull, we gotta, you know, there's, the world is strategic about it. So it's who is tolerable, who is not, who works, who doesn't, who falls through the cracks, who are we going to allow the resources? I mean, now my head is going into like academia. I'm like, it's necropolitics, like, and biopower. No, okay, that's too much. That is like totally gonna go into like a topic we don't need to go into.
I
But I
think you're
think
right though.
but it is right. No, it is right. And but like in short, it's, you know, this is benevolent ableism. Maybe it's well-meaning, but it's rooted in discomfort, distancing, and denial. And it props up a system where disabled people are admired, but they're not listened to or liberated.
And that's because I think if we perpetuate the idea that they're strong and they're coping, there's no urgency to invest in robust social support systems, in accessibility, in healthcare, into research, and into disabling like conditions that actually impact on someone's life. I think what you were saying around like um earlier feeds into this idea that like um the also strong narrative interacts with other aspects of a person's identity, like gender, class, sexuality. So, for example, a disabled woman might face unique pressures to be strong and nurturing, while disabled men might struggle more to express their vulnerability due to their gendered expectations of strength. And I
Mhm.
think this highlights the experience of disability is not monolithic and it's intersectional and um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the "you're so strong" statement is, um like I said, it's dismissive, and it's rooted in distancing and non-disabled discomfort and denial of the real experiences. And that could be positive or negative. And like I said sort of earlier, it's up to the individual person to decide what their disability means to them and what relationship they have with it, and how it intertwines with their perspective and their feelings of, and how they move about their day-to-day life. um and I just feel like it may not be relatable or comfortable for a non-disabled person, but like, I don't know, it is safer to just own that. Like, I'd rather deal, if you're uncomfortable with, I mean, I believe me, I've seen all levels of discomfort with my own disability, and I've witnessed it with other friends and people that I know, and it's like, so you're not, and also you're not really hiding it, so just out with it. It's like we see it, like we know what's going on here. People are not as subtle as they think they're being. So just own that you're in foreign territory and disabled people, we will be your guides. We will help you through it. You're not alone. So just like you, if you're uncomfortable, you won't have to be for long. Like, we got it. We got it. We got you.
Definitely. And I think if I don't really have anything else to add to that, I think that's the perfect kind of summary of it.
Yeah. But I will say, like, if you're a disabled person who's listening to this and you're like, fuck you, I am strong. Like, the point is not like there are, that statement can be very true. I think
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, like, I have felt that way many, many times. Like, I think several times, like, in the week, I will feel like, yeah, I am strong. Like, but like, that's for me to, the point is, that's not for anybody to decide for you. That's for you to decide for yourself.
Mm.
And it's
And like,
important that disabled people have that opportunity.
I don't know if it's just because it's a trending sound on TikTok, but Mulan, where it's let's get down to business.
My favorite Disney song. It's Donny Osmond, and I love that song.
Every time I'm feeling like I'm bossing it, like I'm getting my work done. Maybe I've had like a really unproductive afternoon, but then the next morning I wake up feeling good. I get it all done, and I'm there going, "Let's get down to business," and I'm feeling so strong. I'm feeling so motivated. So everything under the sun,
That
and
is
so
like
it's
one of
not.
my favorite pump it up songs. Like, that is like one of my like go-tos. That's so funny. Oh my
And I
God,
think
it's such a good one.
like we're not saying that it's not okay to use that. It's just sometimes it can be triggering for some disabled people, and it can definitely have an impact on the rest of their day, their like how they see themselves and stuff. And so
Mhm.
it's just to be mindful of that.
Yeah, and it's just, it's every disabled person has the right to be the author of their own
Mm.
experience and narrative. And it's it's really important, because unfortunately in the world, that is often something we are robbed of, stripped of. And I want to see more effort for people to respect that, because I think for any human, it's not just disabled people, being a person, it's important for everybody to be the author of their own
Mm.
story. And so I think that's something we all can relate to. And I think really just the ask is that you allow disabled people that right, that I think belongs to every human.
Definitely.
And it's also, it is okay for somebody's experience not to be relatable, to be a little uncomfortable for you, or to be new. I don't think I've ever been insulted by somebody being very clearly like in foreign territory when they meet me. Like,
Mm.
that's okay. Um, you know, but I don't, but just like, that's not wrong. I mean, on some level, it's kind of like, get on your freaking phone. Come on. Like, but I mean, but overall, I think I'm pretty understanding. I'm not gonna,
Mm.
yell at you for it. But it is insulting when I think there's, I just don't like the assumptions, because they're almost always wrong, you
And I
know?
think like I always talk about the inspiration porn and how like yes, I might be able to do some good things. Like I did like I ran a marathon and stuff, but like I was still disabled during that marathon. Like it didn't stop, and then the second I completed the marathon, I was suddenly, or like I wasn't just disabled during that time, and then suddenly it stopped when I finished. Like it's a constant in my life, and so like when you just say, "Oh, that's so inspirational," but like everyone else who ran the marathon is so inspirational as well. Like, why is it sort of? It felt like it was targeted at me, like in a way that, like, I have no idea if that made sense.
It did, but I think what I heard is it like we're not, well, it centers non-disabled feelings, not disabled realities. Inspiration Porn isn't about disabled people. It's about how non-disabled people feel when they look at us.
Yeah.
And it erases the complexity and the diversity of, of being disabled. And I think it really feeds into the pity-based charity models that activists, are fighting so hard against, because it's that same sort of logic behind, exploitative telethons and fundraising ads. And it turns disabled people into helpless figures who are a broken version of human life and whose value is in how much pity they can evoke, not what they say or create or deserve.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Dude, Where's My Ramp? Thanks so much for spending this time with us, listening, reflecting, and sharing in these real, honest conversations about disability access and the everyday challenges and triumphs that we face. We hope that you learned something meaningful in today's chat, whether it made you laugh, sparked some ideas, or maybe even brought up some feelings. That's okay. These conversations aren't always easy, and it's important to acknowledge that. If anything we've discussed today triggered difficult emotions, memories, or mental health struggles, please know that you're not alone. We've included a list of support resources in the show notes with trusted organisations in both the UK and US. Whoever you are and wherever you're listening, to help you and guide you. We want this podcast to be a safe, supportive space. So if you ever want to reach out, share your story, or connect with us, you can find us on social media. These will also be in the show notes. We'd love to hear from you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review. It really helps us to reach more people who these conversations could help. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend or family member, anyone that you think would benefit from listening to a podcast about disability rights and access. The more we spread the word, the louder our collective voice becomes. We'll be back soon with more episodes, more stories, and more laughs. And yeah, probably more rants about ramps, buses, and everything in between. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Remember, we're all in this together.
Go Wildcats. I had to. I can't. I have to.